his hands flipped a little there. It sounded like 3 to me. I know he wanted to do 2. Now I'll get you guys checked in. Got some name tags for you.
Come on in, please. Go all the way down.
First thing we need is to hear from the station conductor that the gate's closed, the station's secure, we're ready to go. We get it verbally and with a hand signal. In turn, our train conductor lets everyone know when he's ready to go verbally, with a hand signal and a buzzer to the engineer.
Oh, boy.
George is going to get to do that. We don't let the guests do that during the day. Only on the George. Come on, George.
Up and down twice. Once, twice, that's it. Now wait.
Signal 2 on the
Say all aboard. Right on.
You gotta wait from the engineer. Meanwhile, when you have folks coming in at this point, they're looking up here and wondering, how did you do that? How are you so special? You're on the train already. Well, we're going to leave behind the big city in just a moment. We're going to head out to the wilds of Adventureland. We're going to go back to the jungle. She was a lot younger. You see, when she was born, there's the outpost. As I said, we use that for parade floats. When we're crossing parade floats, we have an engineer station at that location. This is the Adventureland right there. Everybody else is underneath. Parade floats are control thing. That building over there is Pirates of the Caribbean. Just to give you an idea where you are in the park. The building over this side is Pirates of the Caribbean. And they connect up here at Pirates Tunnel. Right about the point of the right where Jeff men tell no tales, you go under the tracks. When you get off the train, you come up under the tracks on that moving sidewalk. The folks that are there helping you disembark the boat don't need to watch it, know where it's left to break, they just count trains going overhead. Here we are in Splash. Provides the longest, provides the lowest, we've got a ring between the boat and the land. It's a cloud. We're out at the Frontierland Station, the rustic looking station sitting down out on the edge of the wilderness. And that will bring us to the tiny town of Tumbleweed, where the population will ride out. The Big Thunder Mountain Lining Company, though, runs a railroad train. As a reminder of the importance of the railroad train, because in order to back down to the roundhouse, we need to blow the switch. A volunteer. Thanks, John. Yeah. Go with our one. John volunteered. I don't know whether you saw that. Now, what he's going to do, John's going to go through it. And right now, if you look at the track where the rail, you can see we're lined up with the main line.
This upon the rail was open. That's pretty close.
Erwin and John are going to go over here, and they're going to remove the safety pin. Lift the locking handle to about 45 pounds of air against it. That'll rotate the switch stand and actually move the rail pin. As they do that, that switch stand rotating will change that green light to a yellow one. And the red disc, which is hardly visible right now, will become fully visible, indicating that we have the switch set for the spur. They'll lower the handle to the lock position, which sets the safety pin. On the far side, you'll notice a floodlight illuminating in the bushes. That's there so you can see what we're doing. So it's dark every night when we do this, and it's dark in the morning about half the year. Hello, Ron.
Hey, how you doing, Jim?
The last thing I'll do is go over and give the rail a good solid kick to make sure it's locking in place. We have a manual switch here, so it doesn't have the power or pressure that a pneumatic or hydraulic switch has. Hydraulic and pneumatic switches can crush anything that's in their way, whether it be a piece of a rock ballast, a piece of a tree limb or stick, or your foot. Right here. With the manual switch, you don't have that. So you give the rail a kick, she'll look at it and make sure it's in position. Railroaders call that the insurance.
Lantern, you make a circular motion.
Yeah, but like a biggest circle in Arnold does, okay?
And you go all Okay, now circular.
Aboard!
Go right up.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. What are you saying?
That bridge, though, I will have to ask, at that point that we put the cameras away, we're going backstage. Now, we do have permission to take photos in the train yard of the trains, of the monorail trains above us, of the train crew, of the train tour group, and of course of the photogenic tour guide.
Watch those airlines provide barely above their head. I mean, that thing's moving right on top of their game. We can catch it.
Oh yeah. I thought he used to have a full head of hair. Don't tell him I said that.
No. How often do you clean the boilers?
The best part is I never.
Attaboy.
The boiler, the tubes get, the boiler itself gets inspected by the state once a year, and then 6 months after that, or 6 months before that, depending on your perspective, but half a year away, it's also inspected again by our people. So twice a year, it's completely inspected, cooled, and cleaned, and then the tubes are cleaned again every year. And cleaning the tubes requires you to pull the boiler down, open it up, literally get a brush on a 40-foot long handle, punch it. And I don't know why, but I've never seen that guy from TV come and do something like that. It's not get to be with Rick Laura. In fact, this past winter, we had twice as much cold weather as we used to. Instead of 2 days of this winter, we had 4. They still a lot of things to put a mango tree on my front lawn. Now, if you're wondering what these contraptions are over here, this is maintenance away equipment. The orange one is a little steeper than the broken salvage one. Now you gotta forgive Fred because he's looking in the wrong spot right now. Well, what he's doing is he's shutting off one of the fuel shut-off valves, trying not to burn. But you understand that he's like the big fat older brother I never had. But at least he finally wised up and stopped running into fires.
I didn't have to carry a gun.
I think that was a lot better. Of course, if you step down, take everything with you, this train is going to pick up Nick, he's not coming back to us. And watch your step. This train has 4 drivers, 2 on each side. Those are the drivers. Now, will you hear people say, I'm going up to drive the train? Yes. Why? Because they're using their own colloquialism. It is not accurate. You are the engineer, you are the operator, or you are going to run the engine. That would be the correct term.
And does each train have its own personality?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Each train has its own personality, very much so. Lily, who is our showgirl, she is kind of the prima donna. If you don't treat her like a lady and treat her very nicely and sweet talk her, she's going to get you. And you got to watch what you're doing with her. You got to be very careful and keep a real close eye on her. Because if she doesn't get your full attention, she'll suddenly she'll go from having plenty of water to nothing in a blink. Or so it'll seem. She'll drop her pressure 40 pounds in a blink. Garbage, you can burn leaves. You can burn congressional records. You can burn anything that'll burn. Or you can stick a pile of uranium in there, because it'll make heat. You would like a little more shielding for the crew before you do that. Because you don't want to fry them as well. As long as you can make enough heat to boil the water is about this high. Below the water level are the exhaust tubes or flues. They run from the firebox to the smoke box. Your primary heat transfer takes place at the firebox, secondary in those tubes with the hot exhaust gases, which are then vented up the stack. The steam accumulates in the top or steam dome. Up on top of that are the pressure relief or pop-off valves. Inside is the main throttle valve. It's a mushroom-shaped valve that the steam keeps closed. So when you pull the throttle lever, you're forcing that open against the pressure of the steam. Its natural inclination is to stay shut. That admits the steam through the dry pipe across the top of the boiler to the smoke box where it splits and comes down to the steam chest. In there is a sliding valve that directs the steam to one side of the piston, then to the other. So we push the piston in each direction. As you're pushing the piston in one direction, that valve also opens up the exhaust lines to let the used up steam out the stack. That used up steam going out the stack gives you the chuffing sound that you're used to from a steam engine. Now you guys have cameras. If you want to get some pictures of the trains, let's move this way. And while we're waiting for that train to come up close enough for the photo, and it's going to come right along this track here, so you get close up as it goes by. We have to stay over here for updates. We'll continue the how does it work part. As the steam pushes on the piston, it moves the piston rod, which moves the drive rods and the side rods, and that makes the wheels go round and round. So the harder you tug on the throttle, the more steam you send through the line, the faster the wheels can turn. Now we're aiming to do about 10 miles an hour around our mile-and-a-half mainline track, so you have an enjoyable ride. A relaxing ride, a comfortable ride. If we take it up to about 15, you start to wonder, maybe I got on Big Thunder Mountain. If we get it up to 20, you're pretty sure it's on Big Thunder and something's gone wrong. And if we took these engines up to full speed, you'd look like the Lionel trains under the Christmas tree when they fall up. Full speed for these engines. No, for the Roy it's about 55. For the Roger Brogy it's about 50. The Lily Bell it's about 45. That is not at all practical when you're doing a mile-and-a-half all in summer. On a cool, humid morning, it's a great day for steam. We had one of those about 3 years ago. The company took some photos for the vacation park George Ford. It was of the Roger Brogy engine. It was right beyond the fence. We had a monorail on the beam overhead, and it was just sunrise. I had to be in at 4 o'clock in the morning to be ready for that. And you don't even see me in the picture because I'm the guy in the engineer making that happen. One of the photos you actually make out the silhouette of the fire. More steam. You know what picture they used in this story? The first one. How many people are on the crew? well, the 10-wheeler supports itself. So he's kind of like indicating or heavy haulers. And the Roy Disney with the 440 with the American Standard protocol, he was a passenger. Now that the train is out of the way, you guys are free to walk around the yard if you want. Just please don't go beyond where that fence line is, out onto the ballast. Watch where you step. You don't want to twist your ankle. If a monorail moves overhead, step out from under it. Don't stand under it. Trigger it from inside the locomotive cab. It comes shooting down this pipe, which extends down here. At the end of that pipe would be another piece of pipe with a nozzle that would direct the sand right onto the track in front of the wheel. We don't have that because we don't use the sand. Sand is required to give you extra adhesion, extra traction, especially in very slippery conditions like when there's ice on the rails. We don't have that happen often here anyway, but we do get a lot of morning condensation. We do get afternoon rain. That does make the track very slippery going uphill. However, if you use sand, you're also putting additional wear on your track and on your wheels. So we've got a 2% grade, which is the maximum that was permitted on the Transcontinental Railroad. And that's a pretty steep grade for a steam engine. You don't hardly notice it if you're walking it. So we have to teach our people how to work with finesse. Finesse the throttle. And sometimes we're only going a mile an hour, 2 miles an hour up the hill instead of the 10. But we're going up the hill and we're doing it without sand. The device here is a drip oiler. This is the improvement over the oil can with the long spout. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, you have your name blocked? Harvey, have a seat there.
Grumpy.
All right, Grumpy, watch your head. Don't touch anything, guys. All right? We don't want anybody to get hurt. Most of this piping is over 300 degrees. We're going to start here on Dan's side, which is the fireman's side. First thing you look at whenever you climb aboard is the water level. You want to make sure you got water. Right now the water is just above the 2 volt mark. Right up there. Our minimum operating water level is not to go above 2 watts. We're ready to leave. We'll show you how to actually do it. You get into the firebox, shut the door, open up the middle one, which is your stack blower, and we'll let it the steam jet come straight up the stack. That moving steam draws the air behind it, and that takes your combustion gases and draws them forward. You can't turn that at all. taking the yarn also come down to the brakes. Brakes are controlled by the brass handle down below here. On or off. The brake pressure gauge is indicated by the smaller one, see the big one. It's a single pressure system. The original George Westinghouse design. But remember, I told you we're in that 1880s period as well. So this is the latest thing. In the 21st century, they refer to it as straight air. And you have the injector on this side as well. I was going to let Curtis have a seat there because he hasn't had a chance to do anything. Plus, he's kind of tall. I don't want him to hit his head. So have a seat here. Don't touch anything. It's very hot. Just going to show you the things. You already heard what they do. So, this is the sight glass with the water level. They count it by the bolt heads. Stack blower, atomizer, and fuel control. The bell rope. The steam pressure gauge, the brake pressure gauge. On the engineer's side, the Johnson or J bar, the whistle, the brake, throttle. Down below is the cylinder or steam tops for that rushes steam out the front, and the speedometer up in the top corner. And right behind Barb is the 664 gallons of fuel, and John is leaning on 1,837 gallons of water.
It's just like a car, huh? Can't run without water or gas, right? Fuel.
Well, you need fuel to get your fire going, but once, you know what, I can go for a while if even without fuel, as long as I've already got pressure built up. Until I run out of pressure. So you may have noticed, if you looked up on the monorail track, you might have seen they have a tow unit up there. Usually number 2 is the one that's visible. They have 3 of them total. Their monorails have problems, they send those out to pick them up. We don't have a tow unit. Route 69, and this was the last one that was refurbished. The one we had taken off had been put in 1916 and taken off in 1969. So 53 years was the first one.
Something like that.
Usually they only last 25 to 30 years and you take good care of them. Most of the time when they do the boiler inspection here, the inspectors are still amazed at how pristine the interior looks.
Same trains in England now, 15 years you have to do it, Monitor them better, right? You monitor them better.
Well, we monitor them and we maintain them much. Pictures of me, yes. We're in the yard. Anytime you're in the yard, taking pictures of anything with the train. Okay. As we go down, you guys also watch your head. You want to have a good view of what's going to happen first. And I want to tell you about the crosshead mounted water pump. As Robbie goes by to get the chain out of the way, he's going to point for the crosshead mounted water pump, aren't you, Robbie? There it is, right under there. That takes piston action and allows us to pump water in as we're moving. That is a device of the turn of the century. Not the turn of the millennium, that more recent thing. I'm just talking about the 100 years ago. The early 20th century saw the advent of the steam turbine pump, which would be located in a similar location, but it wasn't attached to the piston. It would just take steam and you would run it through. It would start to spin a turbine, which would then pump water. We wanted to be more authentic to the time period. However, you'll notice a black cylinder in front of it, right, hidden underneath the running board. That's a Disney add-on. That's a preheater. Because when you put cold water in a boiler, it requires more fuel to heat it back up. If you can warm that water up before it goes in, that's less fuel you've got to use. We use steam to turn the turbine for the generator. Okay, watch the stack. He's going to be purging the water from the stack. And that's what we call blowing his stack. I'm just trying to move out of your picture line, and you guys keep backing up behind me. Perfectly safe, I'm right back of you. There we go. You see the geyser? All right, come on over this way now. You want to watch Eddie get fired up. You see, he can't get steamed up, get a full head of steam, or make the grade until he has gotten himself fired up. So gather in here close. It's perfectly safe. Like I said, I'm right in back of you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna borrow it. I tell you to close the stack.
But I told you, I'm one of the instructors. I've taught these guys.
I don't have a lighter.
I know what they're Right, that's just being stored in the boiler.
All right, here we go.
There's his fabric waste. He does his little Statue of Liberty routine. The important thing to try and remember is to put the flour in the hand with the glove. I have seen it happen more than once where people will make that mistake. Actually, most of the time they were.
Super bad.
All our managers are trained to operate the equipment. And twice a year we do a requalification test. They have an operator within 6 months that needs to be requalified. And the requal is very basic. It's the same as the assessment test in part. But it's funny, one of the managers did that a couple years back. He was doing the requal. He picked up the weight. He realized, oh, I forgot to open the door. So he took the weight to the Now, if you do it right, you do it good. You don't get caught. The problem is if you don't, it's going to be right. We have a couple of other guys that like to look at our The opening crew's responsibility is to get all trains going out for the day warmed up. Preferably brought all the way up to full pressure and then shut down and wait for their crews to arrive. When you start the checklist, item number 1 is open up the doors and turn on the exhaust fan so we get some air. For those that noticed the whistle, that was the Roger Brogy moving up the hill out of Toontown. Rust buildup in the boiler and tender, and a green dye so you don't drink it. Then we put it in the tower. We feed from the tower by gravity. That green block light up ahead tells us that the Roger Brogy is sitting in Frontierland Station right now. If that light were yellow and green, it would tell us that it was sitting in Main Street. If it were red, it would tell us it's between here and the Berm Bridge. If it were yellow and red, it would tell us that Lily was in Main Street and Roger was on the bridge. So the lights actually do have meaning. Other whistle signals, each single long short tells the station conductor the train is approaching. It also tells the train conductor we're approaching a station. Class 1 commercial railroads tend to use longer whistles for those, but it is 2 for forward and 3 for back. One long one is a stop signal. So if you happen to be on the commuter train and you want them to stop and you know where the conductor's buzzer is, and you give it Okay. He's got his throttle set, he was accelerating. By opening up those cylinder cocks, besides, purging out water, it leaks a little of your pressure. So luckily, our shorts administrators should still be waiting with the water in the coffee corner. Because they're just sending the 9:30 and they still have the family magic to go out. When we go out, we are going to go out the exit. We're going to turn left down the exit and go to the stability exit. Thanks for bringing up. We know him today in history as Buffalo Bill. And to Walt, he was the star of the dime novels, the proprietor of the Wild West show, the superstar of the day. And Dad knew him way back. The idea of Mickey Mouse Park in Burbank was gone. So he started to think about where can I build bigger? And bigger because his ideas that he had overflowed the 16 acres that he had available. Meanwhile, they're still riding around in the backyard. And Lily is still getting annoyed. Walt was thrilled. We saved history and we saved time, and Roy was absolutely tickled because we saved time and we saved money. So both brothers were happy. And then they started to think, as the Disney company became even more successful and branched out with some projects for the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. A place that allowed them to do some development, some experimentation, and some advancement stories. So you're all welcome to listen in. You're also invited, if you're in town on April the 21st, I believe it is, it's a Tuesday, 11:30 at the Wilderness Lodge, the Carrollwood Pacific Room. Now, this isn't going to fall on your head down